So the Louisiana event. When we first opened the Louisiana incident booklet, we're met with an article about Governor Foster, assuring people that the rumors of an epidemic in the swamps are little more than whispers and problems of a people that are low creed, and this shouldn't be problematic to regular, upstanding folk and citizens. So obviously, despite the good press, this guy was wrong, and it cost a lot of people their lives. Essentially, this article just talks about how Governor Foster is assuring people in Louisiana that things are going to be fine and there's nothing to worry about. So the next entry we have are a bunch of different clippings from newspaper articles, all across North America with different events. The only one that stands out to me, however, that's interesting is the one from New Orleans, which is right here. More than 100 citizens have died to a bout of yellow fever. The next entry is a brief article that discusses graffiti and its existence throughout human history. There are allusions to what the symbols pictured in the right side might mean, but of course the rest of the article is missing. 1977 is labeled on the right-hand side, and we can tell from the top right that it's some sort of excerpt from a book or possibly a newspaper run, but no additional information is given about the symbols in the Lawson trailer and that are currently pictured in this book. And although it's referenced as graffiti, there's a subtext that there's a lot more going on about it. The next entry are, in fact, two different letters. The writing on the first letter reads, "From the Jones collection," so a collection of letters from Dr. Jones, who is referenced throughout. So the letter is from a Philip Huff Jones, MD, to a Mom Laveau. So it's vague and mysterious, but foreshadows the dangers on the horizon and speaks of the value of their cooperations. More writing on the letter reads, "Who's transcribing these, and find the originals." The Latin at the bottom roughly translates to, "With how little wisdom the world is governed." So I find this interesting both in the sort of Illuminati subtext, but also because of the first article about Governor Foster. So here we have kind of the reference to foolish people governing the world and not being trusted, and we actually have a legitimate governor character. So I think there's a tie and correlation between there. So again, with how little wisdom the world is governed, and Governor Foster's assures citizens no epidemic, like two clips that specifically contradict and draw upon one another. Something interesting to consider. The second letter is from a V. Caldwell to the writer of the previous letter, Dr. Jones. It references a shipment on its way to Louisiana. First, I thought this might be something related to the outbreak, i.e. chemicals or experiments, but more writing on the letter reads, "Transcript, ? Found inside French-English Dictionary, Berlin Public Library." V. Caldwell is underlined with a question mark, which is why I believe this to be the same weapons manufacturer, i.e. the Caldwell rival. The Berlin Library seems like it could be a subtext about possibly weapons coming in from Germany, but it could be a red herring. We know we're in pre-World War I era timeline, so there's definitely some strange things afoot. Following that, we have two different journal entries. The first is a brief look into the psyche of a self-described true hunter. Don Alessandro Gardini outlines his hunter's philosophy and hunting ideology, and it's best outlined, I think, with the lines right here. "A real hunter needs no prey, for prey may by definition never hope to win. Therefore, since the hunter would never lose, there is no actual skill involved. Nay, a hunter needs a demon, for lack of a better term. A true hunter needs another true hunter. Let the games begin." So Gardini is the embodiment of, I think, PvP hungry players, but we still don't quite get his motivation other than the thrill of the hunt, which in a weird way is kind of about us and about many of the player base, so it's interesting. He expresses his hopes to impress the previously mentioned Dr. Jones in order to qualify for better hunts and hunting parties, which may help us better understand our hunting tier system. It also sheds some lights on Jones' forays into New Orleans and why he might need to partner with a weapons manufacturer. The second journal entry is from a master of treasury in a foreign land by the name of Abdullah bin Abdulaziz. The first three paragraphs reference his former homeland vaguely and weave foreboding ominences and dread about the future. The third paragraph, however, contains the interesting part to me. "There we will find and slay a southern gin, of thirst and filth. Its husk shall be sold to the tribe of the American hunters in exchange for 40 cards of the true deck." I'm unsure if he's referencing money in a weird or dated way, or if this is something more related to what motivates the hunters / keeps them going back into the zone, if I can make that stalker comparison. I'm not sure if it's the former. It could be in reference to the deck or the cards we get at the end of the games as well, so it's hard to say. The letter ends with, "May God forgive our sins," which leads me to wonder just what's really going on when we banish these demons. The third journal entry is from a Christopher Paella Jr., who seems to be a hunter who's coming out of retirement. In the entry, he references a telegram he's received saying it's not a simple infection, and goes on to reference the same Dr. Jones from before as believing an entity is making monsters of men. So this hunter is in communication with the same Dr. Jones who we know is going into Louisiana and possibly coupled up with Caldwell doing, I guess, excavations or forays into the unknown, into the hunting grounds. But the question is there an alignment of people more than groups of two? Is this just a subtext to explain what we're doing in the swamp? There's more questions here than answers, but it's certainly compelling. We probably have a sculptor on our hands, is the words that's used. And in this passage, or in this entry, we probably have a sculptor on our hands. It outlines questions that don't have answers, but includes. The journal entry outlines questions that he doesn't have answers for, and includes an interesting question tied again to the hunter's motivations. What's the bounty for a brood monster such as this? A circle? Which just leaves me with more questions in regards to broods and circles. And in quotes, he also has, this also means there will be an inexhaustible supply of things to hunt, each with its own contract, I hope. So it's very interesting to see that we've got some sort of entity that no one seems to know, at least in terms of the player base, creating these monsters from afar. And what we're left to wonder is, are these demons then the bosses we're fighting little more than some small puppet of a greater evil, which would make sense, obviously, in the scope of evil versus good, but also then what's really going on, and do the hunters care, or are we purely profiteering as opposed to warring with evil? It would certainly seem we're more about profiteering given the PvP nature, but again, there's just more questions here than answers, as far as I can tell. Your Grace, several weeks now have passed since my letter, and to my regret I have to tell you that my investigations about the Lowenschilde Regiment on their former battlefields continued to be unsuccessful. While searching for the stolen regimental journal, I arrived at the shores of the Great Lakes on the first of the month, but also here there was no success. As the Lord wanted, an encounter with a kite brought me a new track that leads to the south, into the swamps of Louisiana. The worrisome stories about the incidents at this god-forsaken place that were passed along to me suggest to me again that more than just the diary was lost. Because of this, I'm going to turn my back on Chicago in the next few days and purchase passage with the Pacific Union Railway to St. Louis. From there, a steamer will take me across the Mississippi further south. I pray that the Virgin whose name the city carries sends me a clue to successfully finish my search. Your most humblest servant, Ritmister H. So a servant of the king dispatched to recover a stolen regimental journal, but also in his own words expresses his fear that due to the stories coming from Louisiana, then more than just the journal was lost. So we know this journal isn't just a regular journal. We know it's got some sort of paranormal or dangerous capabilities, and we'd also want to know more about this Lowenschilde Regiment, which apparently, I don't know, I can't find much on. So again, we have a lot of different powers sort of playing into and working in the south, but no real meat as to what is actually going on down there. Following the letter from the researcher, we have a ticket aboard the Queen Crescent Railway for two different people, one R. Ramsey and one A. Lynch. With that, we also have a stamped and approved one-way passage ticket to New Orleans. Additionally, we have another railway ticket for one Gus March heading to New Orleans as well. I wonder if I haven't missed some of these details that tie all these cards and tickets together from the previous entries and letters, but for the most part, I think we're just seeing the sudden surge in people trying to get to a place that's far from hospitable. Finally, we have an ad for Rawlings' vaporizing inhaler. What looks to be a classic turn of the century snake oil machine and harebrained scheme seems to be an ad for a product that aims to clear out your throat, bronchial, and lung troubles. So Rawlings is obviously the manufacturer of this device, but it's hard to construe anything from this particular input as to what is really going on with this device, or if it ties in or connects to the actual plague. I mean, you can see they're clearly trying to do the classic, like, this inhaler will boost you and make you a better person, clean shaven, disheveled, depressed, and sad, into this weird sort of wonky, improved human being. But yeah, it's certainly creepy. But otherwise, that's the entirety of the Louisiana event. So if I missed anything in there, or if you think there's anything important for me to grab other than the 1967 on the front cover, then let me know. And otherwise, I'm going to cut this video together because I stuttered and stomped and caught and blah, 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 blah. Let me know. All right, thanks for watching. And keep hunting.